My colleagues asked some important questions about the government's Arrive scam scandal and the costs associated with that. When talking to people about this scandal who are involved in government, one point of feedback I often get is this is just the tip of the iceberg. People see the ballooning of contracting out, the number of firms involved in so-called staff augmentation and middlemen. I wonder if you could help us get a sense of the magnitude of contracting out in general. And I'll ask some specific questions related to pieces of that. But how much are we spending in a given year on contracting out functions of public service delivery?
So to give you an order of magnitude, we estimate that there's about $21 billion in contracting out. So that includes, obviously, consultant fees, consultant services, but it also includes assistance or professional services that are not available in the public service. For example, if you're building warships, you don't necessarily expect the expertise, all of the expertise to be available at the Department of National Defense.
Can I just jump in on that? Because I was thinking
not?
through kind of what are the instances of contracting out that maybe seem more plausible and legitimate and the ones that seem less plausible and legitimate. So the typology I came up with is, let's put it in three buckets. Let's say hard tasks, so specific hard tasks that that the government says we just don't have people who know how to do that within government. That's one bucket. And then another bucket might be management consulting. So the work this committee's done on McKinsey, for example, where people are brought in to offer general advice on direction, management consulting. And then the third would be pure middlemen, so people who are hired to hire other people, like GC Strategies. So within that $21 billion in contracting out, could you try to give us a sense of the magnitude of each bucket?
So looking at what you laid out in terms of categories, I'd say the vast majority are probably what one would describe as hard tasks. For example, the expertise that the public service doesn't have, or services that are needed to contract out to provide health services to remote First Nations communities. Consulting services would probably be much lower, $1 billion or $2 billion. I don't know the exact numbers. And pure middlemen.
And I'll just jump in and we can go back and forth. Sure. I mean, $1 billion or $2 billion is smaller than the total of $21 billion, but $1 billion or $2 billion is still a lot of money. So
I know,
can you give us a sense, of when you say a lower proportion, what kinds of amounts we'd be talking about for those management consulting and those middleman kind of buckets?
So the management consulting or the consulting services, we have done a report that indicated the broad categories, and I don't remember off the top of my head, but what I remember is it was about 10% of the overall total, maybe less. And the pure middlemen, there was no such category because they could be embedded in all of these categories. If, for example, somebody who wins a contract then turns around and subcontracted to somebody else. So it's very difficult to figure out the proportion that would be pure middlemen as you name that category.
And I guess this speaks to the lack of proper records, right? So with the Arrive scam issue specifically, the Auditor General's estimate is we're looking at close to $20 billion went to GC Strategies. They didn't apply any hard skills. We have, I think, close to $8 billion went to Dalian. That's already half of the total, and those are areas where we know there were no hard skills applied. So I guess just summarize what you said. This government is spending about $21 billion in contracting out, $2.1 billion of which is going to that kind of management consulting category, and the middlemen category is a black box. We don't know. Is that?
I wouldn't bet my salary on the $2.1 billion. Right, okay. That's off memory. And the pure middleman is...
Well, in this government, you get a bonus regardless of how good a job you do, so you don't have to worry about it. I'm just joking. But sir, the numbers here are I think quite striking, because we hear this narrative from the Liberals across who say, it's any cut, any reduction in spending is going to impact service delivery. But this clearly shows that there's waste within government, contracting out for things that we don't need to be contracting out. And I thank you for your time. Anything you want to follow up on that, I'd appreciate it.